Hello and welcome to another episode of Pick 3 DST, where I give you 3 defenses I like and 1 defense I'm fading ahead of Week 11 of the NFL season. As a reminder, these are not my full weekly DST rankings. If you want to check those out, you can click the link below, which will take you to the article that I update as the week goes on when we get weather concerns and injury updates and things of that nature. As always, we're going to start with our accountability check in what continues to be a pretty tough season for streaming defenses. 3 of the top 5 defenses the last week were defenses that we had ranked really high, and so that feels pretty good. However, the Jets finished as the second-ranked defense of the week thanks to 2 return touchdowns. We also saw the Dolphins finish as the 6th-ranked defense of the week despite facing the Bills, and we saw the Falcons sneak into the top 10 despite facing an elite Colts offense, and so those things are still a little bit backwards right now. As I mentioned, we did hit on the Texans, who finished as the 4th-ranked defense of the week. We missed on the Bills, who really kind of dropped the ball in a big way against the Dolphins in an embarrassing showing. The Bucs failed to deliver for us as our sleeper. And then the Los Angeles Chargers scored 15 points against the Steelers offense that was allowing only 3 points a game to opposing fantasy defenses. Still not entirely sure how that one happened, but it did, and we're going to try to right the ship here heading into Week 11. My sleeper defense for the week is the Miami Dolphins. Consensus has them down at 23rd, but I have them ranked 8th on the week. The Dolphins have been playing really improved defense of late, and they looked really good against the Bills, even though they traded Jalen Phillips at the deadline to the Eagles. Over the last 6 weeks, the Dolphins ranked 6th in conversion rate allowed and 11th in opponent scoring rate. They've scored just 5.3 fantasy points per game over that stretch, but they have faced the Bills and the Ravens and the Falcons and the Chargers. And so it hasn't been it has been a pretty tough schedule for the Dolphins, but they've still played a much better real-life defense. And I think that's going to come back and affect them in a positive way against the Commanders this week. The Commanders are not going to have Jaden Daniels. It's highly unlikely that they're going to have Terry McLaurin. And so this is a shorthanded Commanders offense, and they've allowed 9 fantasy points per game to opposing defenses over the last month. The biggest weakness of the Miami Dolphins defense is the running game. However, they were able to handle James Cook and the Bills last week, and so I don't really think this Commanders offense has the running game that's going to threaten Miami, and I think Miami is a sneaky play this week. My solid defense for the week is the Atlanta Falcons. Consensus has them at 5th, and I have them 6th on the week. The Falcons are one of the most frustrating teams this season. It's impossible to pin down exactly what type of performance you're going to get from them. One week they'll dominate the Bills, and the next week they'll lose 30-0 to the Carolina Panthers. However, I do believe in the talent on this defense. I do think that Panthers game in particular was very fluky, and so I am happy to play the Falcons this week against the Panthers. Over the last 6 weeks, the Falcons rank 9th in pressure rate and 9th in turnover rate. The Panthers just lost outright to the Saints. The Panthers are giving up 9.3 fantasy points per game to opposing defenses, over the last month. Bryce Young, to me, still is a below-average NFL quarterback. The Panthers are dealing with multiple injuries on the offensive line, and so I think the Falcons are going to get there this week. I do trust the Falcons as a top 10 play. Pause this video, comment below, let me know which defense you're using this week, or ask me any start-sit questions, and I'll get to those as the week goes on. My stud defense for the week is the New England Patriots. Consensus has them at 3rd, and I have them up at 2nd on the week. Now, the Patriots take on the Jets on Thursday night, and I hate Thursday night football games. They always seem to go a little bit squirrely, especially Thursday night games that are inter-division. However, I really can't think of a better spot than what the Patriots get this week. They're going up against the Jets offense that put up just 170 total yards against the Browns last week. We talked about the Jets winning that game on the back of 2 return touchdowns. Garrett Wilson also injured his knee in that game. It's highly unlikely he's going to play. Actually, we know he's out for a few weeks, so he is not going to suit up for this one. Justin Fields looked really bad against the Browns. He had only 54 yards passing, and 42 of them came on a screen pass to Breece Hall. So Justin Fields was not able to move the ball at all, and this Patriots secondary is really good. I expect them to rise to the challenge here. The Patriots rank 5th in EPA per play allowed, that's expected points added per play allowed, 6th in pressure rate, 10th in turnover rate, and 10th in opponent scoring rate over the last 6 weeks, and that has led to 7.7 fantasy points per game. I think they could push double digits here against the Jets. Lastly, the defense I'm fading for this week is the Minnesota Vikings. Consensus has them at 10th, but I have them down at 21st on the week. Now, this is not the same Vikings defense that carried us to many fantasy wins last year. Over the last 6 weeks, they're averaging just 3.2 fantasy points per game, and they only have 2 games all season where they scored more than 5 fantasy points. And one of those games, a 30-point showing against Jake Browning and the Bengals in Week 3, is really carrying much of the fantasy production for the Vikings defense throughout this season. Over the last 6 weeks, the Vikings defense ranks 23rd in opponent scoring rate, 27th in EPA per play allowed, and 31st in turnover rate. Last week against the Ravens, they also lost pass rusher Jonathan Greenard to a shoulder injury. He leads the team in QB hurries, so if he's not able to play this week, that's a downgrade to this Vikings pass rush, which has been really the only thing that's been above average about this defense so far. And then you get a Bears offense that is 4th in the NFL in turnover rate, 6th in scoring rate, and 6th in sack rate allowed. So this is not an offense I really want to be targeting, and it's a defense that hasn't really performed for us, and so I'm going to be fading the Vikings this week. That's going to do it for this week's episode of Pick 3 DST. As a reminder, click the link below, which will take you to the article that I'll update as the week goes on. Don't forget to like and subscribe to get Pick 3 DST every week, plus the rest of our football and fantasy football content over at NBC Sports. Good luck on Sunday.